Hello everyone, I'm Aurora from Susan's family. Today, I'll share with you a kitty sofa cushion cover, the orange style. For this electronic tutorial, you can find more details on our website, susud.com. This cushion cover consists of the main body, the belly piece, and some decorative elements. The main body includes fabric, head, ears, limbs, tail, and assembly. The belly piece has a base fabric, and fabric 1 through 8. Everything else is for decoration. Let's start with the main bodice fabric. You'll need to crochet 2 of these. Once completed, join them together with sewing. Then, sewing a zipper to the opening part. Start with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. First, let's get acquainted with the chart. In the chart, our ND plus number indicates the round number. The column of increases and decreases explanation indicates the stitches needed for crocheting the current round, including any increases or decreases. The column of total stitches indicates the total number of stitches for the current round. After all the stitches in the row are complete, the entire project will use double crochet, DC 2-in-1, chain stitch and slip stitch. Let me demonstrate the crochet. Get the corresponding yarn. The colors are random. For specific working yarn materials, color combinations, and hook sizes, please refer to the details page of our corresponding products and the paper diagram. In the pattern, there is Mr., which means to start with the adjustable magic ring. Start with a magic ring. The casting on is now complete. Now crochet the first round. Our 1 consists of 14F. The number before F indicates how many double crochet stitches to make. This means to make 14 double crochets into the magic ring. Make a beginning chain. Here, we're using an invisible beginning chain. Stretch the loop to about the height of a double crochet. That's roughly 2 centimeters high. Then, wrap the yarn counterclockwise around the hook. Pull the yarn through both the loop and the yarn on the hook. Yarn over again, and pull through both loops on the hook. And there you have a beginning chain. This counts as 1 double crochet. This stitch also has a loop on top. Next, do 13 double crochets into the magic ring. Once done, close the magic ring. Tighten it up. Tighten the center of the fabric. The loop is now closed. Tuck the yarn tail to the wrong side. Then, make a slip stitch into the beginning chain of this round. Again, pick up 2 loops. Bring the starting yarn tail along with it, and work it in above the hook. Don't tighten the slip stitch here. The slip stitch isn't indicated in the pattern. When crocheting in rounds, always finish with a slip stitch, but don't tighten it. And that completes the first round. The right side of the fabric is facing us. Continue with round 2. Round 2 is 14FV. The number before FV indicates how many DC 2-in-1 to make. Here, it means 14 DC 2-in-1. A DC 2-in-1 means working 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Start with a double crochet. Let me emphasize this again. In every round of the main part, use the invisible beginning chain to start. I won't repeat this in the following instructions. After elongating the loop, crochet in a counterclockwise direction. Wrap the yarn and pull it through from the middle. Then, work through the loop on your hook. And there, your first double crochet is complete. This corresponds to the first stitch of the previous round, which is where you'll insert the slip stitch. Make another double crochet here. While crocheting, keep the yarn end above the hook to secure it. Now, you've made 2 double crochets in one stitch. Continue with the DC 2 in 1 in the next stitch on the left. You'll need to make a total of 14 DC 2 in 1 in this round. Finish the remaining part. Once done, check the number of stitches. The total stitches for each round are all noted in the pattern. I won't mention that again in this tutorials. Then, make a slip stitch into the beginning chain. Remember, at the end of every round, always make a slip stitch into the first stitch. But don't pull too tight. You can cut the extra yarn tail. Round 2 is now complete. Move on to round 3. Round 3 is FV times 14. The parentheses indicate a group. Times number means to repeat the group that many times. Start by working a double crochet, followed by DC 2 in 1. That's how you work FV. Let me demonstrate again. First, work a double crochet. Then, do a DC 2 in 1. That's the second time. For this round, repeat FV 14 times. For the remaining repetitions, follow the sequence of 1 double crochet and 1 DC 2 in 1. Finish with a slip stitch. Round 3 is now complete. The stitches used for the remaining part of the main body have all been demonstrated earlier. The increases and decreases explanation refers to similar concepts as before. Just follow the stitch sequence in the pattern. Crochet without increasing or decreasing means to work one stitch into each stitch. Let's take a look. The fabric surface forms this raised, circular texture. Count the rounds according to this texture pattern. Don't forget the beginning chain and slip stitches while crocheting. Next, use the methods learned earlier and refer to the pattern to complete the 2 fabric pieces. After completing one fabric, leave a yarn tail twice the circumference for sewing. Next, work on the head. Start with a beginning chain. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise, then join it to the main body. The new stitch we'll use are chain stitch, single crochet, SC2 in 1. I will demonstrate the specific crochet technique. In the pattern, start with 16ch. It means starting with chain stitches. Total 16 stitches. Begin with a slip knot. Then crochet 16 chain stitches. The casting on is complete. Start the first round. Start from the second CH from the hook. Pick up the back ridge, means working into the back bump of the chain. The back bump of the chain. V stands for SC2 in 1. It means crocheting 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Here, we pick up the back ridge of the second chain from the end and crochet 1 SC2 in 1. 13x indicates 13 single crochets. Pick up the back ridges one by one to crochet the required number of stitches. 4x mean crocheting 4 single crochets in the same stitch. Rotate the fabric after completing the stitches. Continue crocheting the single crochets and 1 single crochet increase on the remaining chain stitches. Finish with a slip stitch. Weave the starting yarn tail together. Tighten the yarn. Cut off the extra yarn tail. That completes the first round. Move on to round 2. Start with a chain stitch as the beginning chain. This beginning chain isn't marked in the pattern. When crocheting in rounds, always begin each round with a beginning chain. The beginning chain doesn't count as a stitch. Then, follow the pattern to crochet the stitches. Finish with a slip stitch. Again, tighten the slip stitch. Unless otherwise specified, all slip stitches should be tightened, and that finishes the second round. For the remaining part of the head, the stitches used have been demonstrated before. The increases and decreases explanation is similar to what we've covered. Just follow the pattern to crochet the head section. Remember, each round start with a chain stitch. And at the end of every round, join with 1 slip stitch to the first stitch, and make sure to tighten it. After finishing, leave a tail at least twice as long as needed for weaving in ends. Now, let's work on the ears. There are 2 ears in total. Each ear consists of an outer and inner part. Start the outer ear with a magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Follow the pattern to complete the outer ear. Then, leave a 30 cm tail for sewing. That concludes the outer ear. Move on to crochet the inner ear. Start the inner ear with chain stitch. Work back and forth in rows. Row plus number represents the row number. Let's begin with row 1. 2ch, start from the second ch, v. This means chain 2. Then work from the second ch. To crochet a SC2 in 1 in that stitch. Here, pick up both loops of the chain. Once done, the first row is complete. Proceed to the second row. ch, turn, 2v. This means chain 1. Turn, means turn the fabric. Then, crochet 2 SC2 in 1. That finishes row 2. Moving on to row 3. ch, turn, 3x, v. Start with 1 chain. After turning the fabric, crochet 3 single crochets. Followed by a SC2 in 1. Row 3 is finished. Moving on to row 4. Start with 1 chain. After turning, work 4 single crochets. Then, do a SC2 in 1. Row 4 is completed. Leave a long yarn tail for sewing. Cut the yarn. And there, the inner ear is done. You'll need to crochet another one. Follow the demonstrated method and the pattern to finish. Next, we'll learn how to crochet the limbs. The limbs consist of 3 fingers and the rest. Crochet 3 fingers one by one, then attach 3 fingers together. And crochet the remaining part. We're using a new stitch here. Single crochet decrease. Now, let's crochet the finger 1. Begin with a magic ring. Crochet 4 single crochets. Gently pull to tighten the starting tail. Since there are fewer stitches in this round, you can find the first stitch by counting backwards. Slip stitch into that first stitch. Tighten this slip stitch. Make sure to tighten this stitch to make the next round easier to work. For rounds 2 and 3, work evenly without increasing or decreasing. Remember to count the stitches while crocheting. The side facing us is the right side. Flip it so it's visible. Then slip stitch into the first stitch again. Pull tight. Continue with round 3. The final hole will be quite small. Pay attention to where you insert your hook. Finish with a chain stitch to secure. Leave a longer yarn tail before cutting the yarn. Tuck the starting tail back inside the finger. Cut any excess yarn tails. And there, finger 1 is complete. Follow this demonstration for fingers 2 and 3. Don't cut the yarn after completing finger 3. You'll need to continue with the remaining part. Here, you can see all 3 completed fingers. Move on to the next section. Finger 3 remains uncut. Start by making a single crochet. Then, pick up finger 2, the one with 4 rounds. Begin connecting at the first stitch. Work 2 single crochets. Now, take out finger 1. Start connecting at its first stitch. Crochet 4 single crochets. Moving to finger 2. Work 3 single crochets on the remaining stitches. For finger 3, on the remaining stitches, make 5 single crochets. After that, slip stitch into the first stitch. The first round is complete. Let's take a look. 3 fingers have been connected all together. Now, crochet the second round. Start with 2 single crochets. Then, do a single crochet decrease. First, make 2 incomplete single crochets. Yarn over and pull through. 1 incomplete single crochet is completed. Do another one. Next, yarn over and draw through the loops on your hook. There, you've made a single crochet decrease. Crochet 2 more single crochets, followed by a single crochet decrease. Start with 2 incomplete single crochets. Then yarn over and draw through. The single crochet decrease is done. Now, crochet 3 single crochets and 2 single crochet decreases. Finish with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. For the following rounds, the method were explained beforehand. Refer to the pattern. Finishing the remaining part, leave a long yarn tail for sewing when you're done. That concludes the limbs section. Let's move on to the tail. Apart from the unique method in round 11, the rest of the tail is quite straightforward. First, finish the first 10 rounds according to the pattern. This is the sample which have completed the 10th round. Begin crocheting round 11. In this round, you'll work in a flat piece first. Then, crochet around the entire piece. According to the pattern, let's start carrying the yarn across. Pull up a large loop. Retrieve the yarn. Tighten the loop. Next, locate the 10th stitch of round 10. Attach the yarn to this stitch. Make sure the carried yarn is level with the fabric. After stretching it properly, begin crocheting. Work 1 chain. Tighten this stitch. Then, crochet 4 single crochets and 7 chains. These chain stitches serve as bridges. Place them behind the fabric. Continue to the 9th stitch, which is the one on the right. Crochet 2 single crochets. Simply work into the next stitch, followed by a single crochet decrease. For the second single crochet, we insert into the stitch just left of the previous row. Now, crochet another 9 chains. Let me demonstrate again. Find the 8th stitch. Start working 7 single crochets. Followed by 9 chains. Check your work after that. This crocheted section starts from the 10th stitch all the way to the 2nd stitch in round 10. Crochet the corresponding stitches from right to left. Use the chain stitch as a bridge. Place them behind the fabric. Follow the pattern to complete this section. Since the tail is quite long here, you can stuff with fiber fill as you go along, while continuing after completing a part. Stuffing in sections like this can help ensure a plumper filling. Continue crocheting downwards. When you reach the first stitch again, start crocheting from that stitch. Work 4 single crochets. Then do a single crochet decrease, followed by 9 single crochets. Another single crochet decrease, and 4 more single crochets. Finish by slip stitching into the first stitch. So, round 11 is now complete. For the remaining part, crochet in rounds again. Just follow the pattern to finish. That concludes the explanation for the tail section. Now, let's move on to assembly. Here are 2 completed fabric samples. Thread the yarn tail from the fabric onto a sewing needle. With the wrong sides of the fabrics facing each other, use a stitch marker to indicate the opening position. The specific stitch count for the opening, please refer to the pattern for details. The remaining stitches are for sewing. Insert the needle from front to back through corresponding stitches. Gently pull to tighten. Continue threading and sewing along this section. Always insert the needle from front to back. This sewing method is called slip stitch seam. Keep going with this method. Sew all the way to the marked position. When you reach the last stitch, sew one more time for reinforcement. Then, weave in the end and cut the yarn. Take a look. This is what it looks like after sewing the panel. Next, attach the zipper to the opening. We're using an invisible zipper here. The flatter side is the right side. The side with teeth is the wrong side. Position the fabric and the zipper's wrong side facing you. Position the zipper at the opening. Sew with a smaller needle and matching thread. Choose yarn that matches the main fabric. Cut the thread about twice the length of the opening. Split 2 strands from the yarn for sewing. Thread the yarn through the needle. Tie a few knots at the end to secure it. Since the zipper is quite long, use a stitch marker to temporarily attach it to the fabric. Let's start by sewing one side of the zipper. Before sewing, you can use a pencil or a water-soluble pen to draw lines on the wrong side of the zipper as guides. This helps with positioning the zipper later. Sew 2 stitches at the end of the zipper to secure it. Then, sew along the edge using mattress stitch, which means in and out stitching. Sew the zipper to the fabric by this way. Be careful not to stretch the fabric while sewing. This can avoid distorting the piece. Always check the seam after completing each section. Sewing with shorter stitches will create a tighter seam. Since it's an invisible zipper, while sewing, make sure the zipper can open and close smoothly without getting stuck. When you finish one side and reach the opening side, secure the zipper to the fabric a few times. Once it's well attached, transition the thread to the other fabric piece. Continue sewing the other side of the zipper. For this side, use the same sewing method, but align it with the already sewn part, matching the marked position. Follow the demonstrated to complete it. Secure it on the other side as well. Then, weave in the ends and cut the yarn. Let's look. This is how it looks like after the zipper is sewn. That concludes the zipper sewing part. Next, we'll sew the head. Attach it right above the fabric piece. First, let's preview the finished product. Sew the front and back of the head approximately at the fourth to last round of the fabric. Align the sides with the seam on the fabric. After sewing, the head should form a curved shape. To avoid sewing it crooked, you can mark the head's position on the fabric beforehand, using a stitch marker for reference. Here's the marked head sample. Now, we'll use the mattress stitch to sew them together. Start by picking up the fabric with the sewing needle. The smaller the section you pick up, the tighter the seam will be. Then, pick up the head piece. The section you lift. Try to match the width of the fabric and the head piece. Insert the needle at the exit point from the previous stitch. Continue picking up the fabric and head piece in turn. Always insert the needle at the previous stitch's exit point. After a few stitches, gently tighten the yarn tail. Let's check the result of this type of stitching. The seam is invisible on the surface. Following this sewing method, keep going. Keep sewing downward. Leave a small opening for stuffing. There's a tiny gap left now. Stuff the cotton filling inside. When filling, make it soft and plump, not too tight. You don't need to fill the small opening completely. Continue sewing downwards. As you sew, stuff as needed. After finishing, thread the yarn tail through the head a few times to hide it. Then tie a knot, bring the end back inside, and cut it off. The head is now fully sewn. For the ears, first attach the inner ear to the outer ear. Position the starting chain of the outer ear along the side. Flatten the fabric gently. Place the last row of the inner ear at the bottom. Place it in the center. Use mattress stitch to secure the outer edge of the inner ear in a circle. Once done, weave in the ends. Position the outer ear at both ends of the chain stitches on the head. Make sure the inner ear faces forward. Mark the position accurately. Then, attach the ear to the head using slip stitch seam. Thread your needle through both layers of the fabric here. This completes one side of the ear. Then, hide the yarn tail inside the head and cut it. Repeat the same process for the other ear. Before attaching the limbs, address the small gaps between the fingers. Use the slip stitch seam to close these gaps. Sew these small gaps until there are no spaces left. Once done, bring the thread back inside. Pass the thread through again to secure the tail. This way, the gap between the fingers is sewn up. Do the same for the other side. After sewing, stuff it with fiber fill. Leave the remaining yarn tails inside. Don't overstuff the fiber fill here. Let's see the project. Before sewing the limbs, mark the positions with stitch markers. Place one at each end of the opening. Place a stitch marker 8-9 stitches away from the head on each side. There is an upper and lower part to the limbs. The finger 3 closest to the head point upwards. The finger 3 closest to the opening part downwards. Then, attach the limbs to the fabric using slip stitch seam. Finally, secure the tail in place. Position the tail right in the middle of the opening. Use any method to attach the tail to the last round of the fabric. Make sure they're well secured, and that completes the main assembly. Next, we'll learn how to crochet the belly. Let's look at the finished product. Here, the belly consists of the base piece and fabric 1 through 8. There are a total of 9 crochet pieces. First, let's learn how to crochet the base piece. It starts with a magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. While using new stitches, slip stitch, treble crochet, double treble crochet, DT are 2 in 1, T are 2 in 1. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Rounds 1 to 14 for the base piece are quite straightforward. Just follow the pattern to complete them. Here is a sample with a partially completed section. I'll use this sample to demonstrate the new stitch used in the final round of the base piece. Start by crocheting according to the pattern. Follow the pattern and crochet up to the 19 SL. SL stands for slip stitch. For this round slip stitches, don't tighten them. Just yarn over and draw the yarn through. Continue following the pattern and crochet up to 3E. E represents treble crochet. For this stitch, yarn over twice. Then, yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this process 3 times. The treble crochet is now complete. Do it again. First, yarn over twice. Now, yarn over and draw through. Draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this sequence 3 more times. Another treble crochet is finished. Continue following the pattern until you reach the DT are 2 in 1. Here's how to work this stitch. Yarn over 3 times. Yarn over and draw through. Then yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this process 4 times. That's how you crochet a double treble crochet. Now, work another double treble crochet in the same stitch. Yarn over 3 times. Yarn over and draw through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this step 4 times. And there you have another double treble crochet completed. Since we've worked 2 double treble crochets in the same place, so a DT are 2 in 1 is finished. Later, you'll encounter T are 2 in 1, which means working 2 treble crochets into the same stitch. The method is quite simple, so I won't demonstrate it here. That concludes all the stitches for the base piece. And that's it for the base fabric tutorial. Let's move on to fabric 1 through 8. All these fabrics start with chain stitches. They're worked back and forth. We'll be using a new stitch. Single crochet 3 stitches together. Since the crochet method were explained earlier, we'll first learn how to crochet this new stitch. Then, you can refer to the pattern for the remaining part. Do a SC 3-in-1. Insert your hook into the next stitch on the left. Yarn over and pull through. That's an incomplete single crochet. Now, work the second one. Insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, and pull through. You've completed 2 incomplete single crochets. Move on to the third stitch. There are 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, and draw through all 4 loops on the hook at once. And there you have a SC3 tog complete. That's how to crochet SC3 tog. That concludes the belly section tutorial. Next, we'll assemble the belly. Before attaching, confirm the placement of your fabric pieces. Here, the bottom piece should be with the wrong side facing up. The order for fabric 1 through 8 is as follows: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Align fabric 3 with the edge of the bottom piece first. Then position the other pieces according to the finished product. Once everything is in place, sewing from the bottom up. For pieces 1 through 8, yarn used is Impression Sunrise. Sewing directly might leave visible seams. You can use the invisible stitch. Use a thin needle and thread. Pick up and sew corresponding surface segments on the fabric. Since you're using the invisible stitch, you can choose any thread color. After all pieces are sewn to the base, set them aside. That concludes the belly section. Now let's move on to the decorations part. They consist of various small embroidered pieces. Once you've completed the small crochet pieces, assemble them according to the finished product. The new stitch include SC 3-in-1, DC 3-in-1, DC 5 bobble. You'll also encounter curly brackets, which indicate a group of stitches. W signifies working 3 single crochets in the same stitch. FW means working 3 double crochets into the same stitch. The method is quite simple, so I won't demonstrate it. Aside from the necklace and heart. Follow the pattern for the rest. Make sure to leave longer tails for sewing later. Now, let's crochet the necklace. Start with 4 chains. Start from the 4th CH from the hook. That means you'll begin crocheting in the first chain. 5FQ refers to DC 5 bobble. First, make 5 incomplete double crochets. Yarn over. Draw through. Draw through the first 2 loops. There, you've completed an incomplete double crochet. Do this 4 more times. Yarn over and draw through. Pass through the first 2 loops again. Now, you've done 5 incomplete double crochets. Finally, yarn over and draw through all the loops. A DC 5 bobble have been completed. One group of stitches inside the curly brackets is done. Now, work another group. Start with 4 chain stitches. Then, at the first chain. In that little hole there. Crochet bobble stitches. Check your work after you finish. The necklace is made by repeating this group. The necklace should be long enough to fit around the base of the neck. If it's too long or too short after finishing, you can adjust accordingly. That concludes necklace tutorial. Now, let me demonstrate round 2 of heart 3. This is the already completed round 1. Start with a chain stitch as beginning chain. Pick up the loop and crochet 3 single crochets into it. Then, follow the pattern and crochet the stitches. Don't pull the slip stitch too tight here. Match the chain stitch with the one below. Work a loose slip stitch in the next stitch. Continue crocheting according to the pattern. The last 3 single crochets are also worked into the chain's loop. Finish with a slip stitch. Leave a long yarn tail and cut the yarn. Heart 3 is complete. The kite is a diamond shape, about 6 centimeters tall and 4 centimeters wide, made of non-woven fabric. After cutting out the non-woven fabric, start by adhering the horizontal and vertical segments. Here, you can gently twist the threads before gluing them. This ensures the segments won't come loose. Trim the ends of the threads after reserving them. Then, glue around in a circle. After gluing, you can apply a bit more glue to the threads at the 4 corners. Gently twist them again. Trim any excess. Once the glue dries, the segments will have a more 3-dimensional look. Treat all 4 corners in the same way. For loose spots like this, you can apply extra glue and shape it with your fingers. Let the glue dry, and that's it. Follow the demonstrated method. Secure all the segments and corners. Then, attach it to the desired spot. Afterward, secure the kite string. Crochet the necessary chain stitches for the kite string. First, draw the shape with a water-soluble pen. Lay the chain stitches on top to check the length. To check if the length is suitable. If it's not right, adjust the number of chain stitches. Then, start sewing along the drawn line. Thread the sewing needle. Insert it a short distance apart. Pass through the back ridge of the new chain. Go back through where you came out. Continue to sew, spacing out the stitches slightly. Pass through the corresponding back ridge of the chain stitch. Go back through the same exit point. Finish sewing the kite string this way. You'll also encounter backstitch embroidery. Let me demonstrate the method. Bring the needle out. Insert it a short distance away. Then, go back through the previous entry point. Continue by emerging a short distance from the last insertion. Again, go back through the previous entry point. That's how you do backstitch embroidery. Keep watching for the visual demonstration. Choose the appropriate method for attaching fabric pieces in your decorations. You can use the invisible stitch or the mattress stitch. Sew them onto the belly or main body. Follow the embroidery techniques explained earlier. Refer to the visual demonstration and sew the decorations with the corresponding colors. Before sewing, you can mark the positions with a water-soluble pen. The blush and tongue are cut from non-woven fabric, and place them at the correct spots with alcohol glue. Then, sew on the whiskers. Stripe 1 at the top goes in the middle. Stripe 2 at the top goes on either side. Body stripes also need to be secured on the sides of the main body. Feel free to adjust the decorations according to your preference. Finally, assemble the belly with the main body. That concludes the explanation of the remaining decorative parts, and that's it for the entire cushion tutorial. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.